This is a how-to training video today on edging a lawn. Now, edging a lawn is key to making the lawn look superb and very professional. Have you ever driven by a lawn that is cut but has edges hanging all over the place, grass growing all over the curbs, the sidewalks, the driveways? So this particular video is specifically on edging. You can also watch my other videos on the basics of weed eating, lawn mowing patterns, and blowing. I have separate videos on those, but this particular video today is on how to edge a lawn properly. Now, first of all, we need to discuss the different types of edgers. There's three main types of edgers, and I have all three of these. The first edger is what you would call a stick edger, or just a standard blade edger. There's different types, but the type that I have, you can see here, is actually a split shaft edger, because my steel weed eater, or it's an actual weed eater head that you put attachments on. So I actually have here, as you can see, a attachment that goes to the edger. Okay, you can actually buy full straight shaft edgers. I prefer the split shaft because I can switch out different ends without having to pay for all these multiple different pieces. I can just pay one big price for the head of this split shaft, and then I can pay individual prices for the attachments. So first of all, the stick edger or the blade edger can be used. It's very good for, sidewalks, curbs, those types of edges. Okay. Now, the second type of edger that I use is actually just the weed eater. All you do is you turn it up on its edge and use it. This is the one that I prefer mostly, because I actually combine the two main steps, or the two first steps that you can see in my How to Maintain a Lawn video. The first two steps are edging and weed eating. If you use the weed eater, you can do both steps at the same time. I also like just the way it makes the edge look most of the time. It actually creates a little bit thicker of an edge, whereas if you wanted just a very thin edge, you can use the blade edger. But so the second type of edger is actually just the weed eater edge. And again, as you're doing your edges of your perimeter around the house, driveways, sidewalks, curbs, you can actually edge a yard, turn it up, weed eat whatever you need to do around fence posts, around mailboxes, those types of things, and then you can go right back to edging. Otherwise, you use a stick edger, you got a stick edge, go around, do all that, then come back, switch out your weed eater, then go back around and weed eat. So as far as saving time, I like to use the weed eater. Okay, now the third type of edger I do have, and I do use this, but usually I only use it on first time jobs. And this is what is called a push behind edger. As you can see here, the push behind edger is really a great help for pushing through thick edges, grass that is way overgrown, way beyond sidewalks, very, very thick areas that has not been maintained regularly. It's also good for edges or curbs that are very, very long around in parking lot areas, and you want to just walk along very quickly and maintain that edge to where, instead of using your edger and you're kind of twisted up, and if you have very, very long edges, it can be very tiresome on your shoulders and your arms when you're edging, whether you're with a weed eater or the stick edger. So I like these if I have a area that is very, very long and going to take me a long time to edge. You can just kind of walk behind it and push it as you go. They do make self-propelled push edgers. This particular one is just a push behind. It's very easy to roll, and so I like to do that with new jobs where the grass is really thick, because it's really powerful and it cuts through that thick overgrowth that grows over the curbs and the edges of the different areas. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the stick edger. I do like to use the stick edger when I have quite a bit of curb on sidewalks, because it does make a good thin edge. And sometimes when you're looking at a sidewalk, especially on commercial properties, you don't necessarily want a huge thick edge. And also, I like to use this mostly on my warm season grasses like Bermuda, Centipede. You will definitely want to use the stick edger or the push behind edger with the blade, because Centipede grass is very, very thick and it creeps. Just like Bermuda, it creeps and it grows out, but Centipede grass, when it creeps, it's like a thick blade. Sorry, that's my broken finger. Okay, it's not very straight. So anyways, the Centipede is very, very thick. Sometimes maybe not quite as thick as your finger, but and you try to cut through that with a weed eater and it's grown over the edges, the weed eater string is just going to snap off. It's really not going to do a good job cutting the edges. So the stick edger I like to use also on Centipede, which is also a warm season grass. So again, I like to use the stick edger or the blade edger for the warm season grasses that creep. Also on areas that have a lot of sidewalk, I like to do that. It makes a nice clean cut. And then I actually like to use the weed eater as an edger on my cool season grass areas. One of the reasons why is the cool season grass, like tall fescue, tends to kind of grow long and over because you have to cut it longer, which you can see my video on grass types and how to cut certain heights. But the fescue yards and a lot of the cool season grasses, you have to cut higher, and so they tend to lean over on the edges. And when you bring a blade edger, if your blade edger is not perfectly sharp all the time, when you hit that blade, sometimes it's just going to push the blade out of the way, and then it's going to pop back and you're not going to have a nice clean cut. So I actually like the weed eater that spins and just it shaves all of those long blade edges that are pushed over. So I definitely like to use the weed eater as an edger on all my fescue yards. And I do actually use the weed eater edger as an edger on some of my Bermuda yards. Again, if I don't have a lot of sidewalks or a lot of curb, then I will just go ahead and grab my weed eater. I'll edge a yard, driveway, next to the road if there's a curb on the road, and then I'll just take it and work my way around the perimeter, weed eat around all the mailboxes, around the house, perimeters, wall perimeters, little boards that are on the ground, or mulch bed borders. Just weed eat around all of those at the same time as I do that. So really, I like to use the weed eater as an edger as much as possible. But again, on the cool season grasses, I definitely use those. And on the warm season grasses, I will use my stick edger again, especially for first time jobs. The third one that I explained, the push edger, I definitely use for first-time jobs that are way overgrown. When you show up to a customer's house that they have not maintained the lawn well, or a commercial property where they had a previous lawn care guy who did not keep up with the edging, you're going to see this a lot, and you're going to experience this. The grass is going to have grown over the edges of the driveway, the sidewalks, the curbs tremendously. Sometimes it's just overflowing, hanging over. And if you try to just whack through that with a weed eater, you're literally actually going to be cutting through dirt. And so you're really going to want a blade edger to get through that. That's why I like the push behind, so that you can literally cut through that thick grass and dirt and make a nice clean cut. Then what I actually like to do, after I use my push behind blade edger, I go back with my hand blade edger or stick edger, and I go and I make another nice cut along that edge just to make it really, really nice. And once I've done that 2, 3, 4 times to where I've got a really nice line cut, especially with the sidewalks and the driveways, once I've created a nice little edge path, then I will go back and I will begin to use my weed eater. But definitely you will need to use a stick edger or blade edger on new customers that have not had their edges maintained. It just cuts through much better, and it makes that first nice clean cut. Now if you do use a blade edger, you are going to make sure you need to have several sharp blades on hand. Now this is another reason why I actually like to use the weed eater, because your weed eater string, you do go through string quite a bit, but the weed eater string actually does a very good job about not going through it a lot. But with the edger blades, you will go through blades like crazy if you edge every yard. Just, it's spinning through the dirt is like sandblasting metal. It literally just dulls the blades. You're going to go through blades very, very quick, and it's more expensive to replace the edger blades than it is the weed eater string, at least in my experience. Others could have different opinions. And obviously you'll learn as you do lawn care what you like best, and ways that you like to do things, little tricks and tips. But these are some things that I'm trying to share with you that will help you also. Okay? Now one of the things I want to talk about today is on the edging, how to edge. Once you've figured out, okay, which type of edger do I want to use, now how do you actually edge the lawn? It's more than just, okay, I'm going to put this down here and run it real fast, okay? So first of all, we're going to talk about how to edge with the stick edger, okay, or the blade edger. This type of edging, you're going to want to make sure that when you have the wheel on that edger, there's a wheel that goes out to the side. That wheel needs to ride the curb or the sidewalk where the blade goes down next to into the grass edge, okay? You don't want to put the wheel on the grass and then have your edger blade right up next to the sidewalk, and then when you run across the grass, you're going to get stuck and jagged, and it gets you off, and it hits the sidewalk and everything. That wheel is actually made to ride the sidewalk and the curbs or the driveways, okay? So make sure that wheel is on the side of the driveway. Okay, also make sure when you edge, that blade edger is going to go forward and then come around. It's actually going counterclockwise. So as you're edging, you're going to walk with the spinning of the wheel, okay? You don't want to walk against it, every time you go against the flow of an edger or a weed eater, it's harder to maintain a clean cut. The thing's gonna jump off, and you're gonna put jagged edges into the grass, and it's not gonna look good. So in order to create a nice clean cut, you want that wheel right on the curb or the sidewalk, and you want to just run slowly forward. Okay, so you want to edge on a forward motion, walking forward with the stick edger, and also on the walk behind edger. You can do both. I tend to actually walk a few steps forward, come back a few steps, because that's where it's really thick, so you're moving forward and you're going back. That one you're going to have to kind of work with it depending on the thickness of the grass. Or you can go over the edge one time and then pull it back and then go over the edge again. Okay? But also with that walk behind mower, you're going to want to keep the walk behind on the edge of the curb with the blade side down or the sidewalk, and to maintain that edge also. Now, depending on where you're at, if you're in a heavy traffic area, and depending on the side of where the blade edger is on the push behind, sometimes you actually do have to push that in the grass. I have had to do that on some of my commercial properties that are right on the edge of a major road, where I cannot walk in the road to keep the edger on the curb. But however, most of the time, just keep in mind that wheel on any edger, a push behind or the regular stick edger or blade edger, that the wheel is on the sidewalk or the curb. Okay, and go in a forward motion slowly. You will learn. You'll get a feel for it, how comfortable it is. Now, as far as how to edge with the weed eater, I'm a little bit different than most people. The way that I like to hold the edger is because I'm left-handed. I actually hold the front face, the front shaft with my left hand, the actual handle with the gas trigger in my right hand. I turn it sideways this way, and I like to walk backwards. Now, there's a few reasons why I like to walk backwards when I am edging with the actual weed eater. One is that the way that I am holding the weed eater shaft, it is going counterclockwise. But because it's going counterclockwise, with the angle of the weed eater faced this way, I want to walk with the flow of the string. Again, I don't want to go against the flow and walk forward, because I'm going to burn through the string. You will burn through the string. You're going to make big divots in the grass. It's going to be harder. It doesn't run a nice line. You're pushing against the flow of the string, so you're gonna burn through your string quicker and just waste it up quicker. Also, again, it's gonna kind of jump side to side. Now, different people have different opinions, and you could get good at this, and you might be able to do this well. But for me, I like to walk backwards for that one reason. I also like to walk backwards because when I am doing the job, I like to see what I have just edged, and if I miss a spot, if I'm walking backwards, I look up, I see a spot that I've missed, and I go back and I just hit it real quick, and then I keep coming back, okay? If you go forward, you can always keep turning and looking around, but if you're edging and you turn your head around, you're going to either shift one way or the other, and you're going to come off on your edge. Now, again, you're going to get a whole lot better at edging the more that you do it, and you can do it however you want. But I just like to do it backwards, again, for those reasons. So the second reason, again, is as I'm walking back, I can see any edge pieces that I've missed. You don't want to miss on the edge. In fact, I tell the guys that I use to help me do my lawn care maintenance, if you're going to miss a spot, do not miss it on the edge. Okay, you might want to miss a spot. If you don't want to miss a spot anywhere, but if you were to, I'd rather you miss it, you know, in the backyard, a little piece of grass sticking up or something, that I can come back and just mow over it again than to have to go over all the edges again. So as you're walking backwards, you're actually walking away and looking at the edge as you're going. Okay? Now obviously when you're walking backwards, you're going to have to shift your head to make sure that you're not going to run into anything. Just be aware of what's around, run into mailboxes or anything. But this is how I have always done it, and I really like it again for those two reasons. Okay? So as far as on the edges, curbs, sidewalks, driveways, edges of roads, those are going to be kind of your main edge areas. One of the areas that you are going to want to make sure that you edge is the mulch bed areas that do not have borders on them. The areas that do not have a brick, stone, or any kind of border where the grass comes right up to the mulch bed, you're going to want to edge the edge of that mulch bed area. Okay? I use my weed eater edger on this and just run it down the side, and now you can watch the how to maintain a lawn, and you'll know, obviously, if you shoot something out into the grass as you're edging, you're going to need to shred that up, or if it's mulch, kick it back and blow it back into the mulch bed. But if you keep these edges of the pine needle beds, the mulch beds, all the flower bed areas, that is going to make your customer very happy. It helps it have a nice clean cut. So you want to make sure that you edge all mulch bed areas also. Okay? So that pretty much wraps it up for edging. I'm going to kind of review as far as what we're going to go over again. Make sure you edge all driveways, all sidewalks, all curbs, all edges of the road, really the perimeter of the house, okay? Or the perimeter of the turf, rather. You're going to weed eat and edge every perimeter area that is around. If there's an edge on it, if the turf stops, that area needs to be edged. Obviously, if turf comes up to it on either side of the neighbor's houses and stuff, you're not going to make an edge there. But anywhere where the turf stops, that is it. That is where you're going to want to make the edge. Okay? Also, edge mulch beds, pine needle beds, those type of areas also. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up this training video on how to edge.